Welcome to the 25th running of Motul Petit Le Mans. Doing a bit of an off-the-cuff video here. If you know me, you know my videos are mostly very scripted. This is going to be a bit of a change of pace. I haven't done something like this since probably the Rain Race podcast that we did live with Kyle. By the way, Kyle's lovely enough to be behind the camera for this video. I just did a video over on David Land's YouTube channel. You probably know him. So I figured it was only appropriate. Let's repay the favor. I'm not too good at these post-race recaps, or maybe I am. I wouldn't know because I haven't done it yet. So I figured I'll call him on. He can be here, love him or not. We've got David Land alongside me. All right, first things first. David, thank you for joining me on the channel.
You're welcome.
We're doing another post-race preview. I feel like we're going to be repeating ourselves a lot here.
I do that a lot.
That's quite all right.
Yeah.
You can go check out his video, though. There's probably a couple things that he mentioned that I'm not going to talk about. Maybe I'll talk about some things
Jimmy!
he didn't talk about. I'm not even going to lie here. There's a lot to talk about from this race, so much so that I have a list on my phone.
Oh, no.
Probably going to be peering at that every once in a while because I'm not as mega-brained as you when it comes to some of this stuff, storing all that stuff in my head.
I don't know. I think I've missed a lot of the things we're about to talk about.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Yeah.
Let's find out.
Well, I want to start things off with the DPI category. And I
Yes.
want to start things off right at the beginning of the race. Wayne Taylor Racing starting in the pit lane because they had changed
They
their tires.
didn't start in the pit lane. They came in after the first lap.
They came in after the
Look at
first lap.
that. Maybe
Look
I
at
do have the big brain. I
Yeah,
don't
you
know.
know why? Because I was out in turn one shooting
Yeah,
the
you
start,
did.
so
You
I
did do
wouldn't
that.
know
It was a beautiful shot. It had to be said.
Thank you very much. That's going to be a recurring theme here. A lot of the race I actually didn't get to watch because I was out doing some video work. I did catch the final hour, though, and don't worry, we're certainly going to get to that in a few minutes here. But Wayne Taylor Racing, though, really sort of at the back of the field for a while at the start of the race. They had an uphill battle from there, and they found their way at the end of the race towards the front. And this is where we get into a bit of an interesting situation because it was really what it came down to was a battle.
Yes.
Whoever came out on top won the championship between Wayne Taylor Racing and Meyer Shank Racing, provided they didn't finish 5th and 6th. So
Right. And that was
in reality, and the 48 car was a lap down. So
and the
as long
Ganassi
as-
cars were in a steaming heap in turn one.
Right,
so,
right,
yeah.
and we're gonna get to that as well, of course. So Wayne Taylor Racing. What ended up happening in the final pit stop, actually, under yellow, is that the 60 car jumped the 10 car in the pits.
Yes.
Got a bit of a reaction when that happened because that looked like the 60 car's big break right there.
Mm-hmm.
They were trailing behind. The yellow was their first major break.
Yep.
Let's be real, they likely weren't winning the championship if that race stayed green. So the 60 car actually pulled out a pretty hefty lead. It was about 4 or 5 seconds. Slowly throughout traffic, the 10 car was trailing the 60 car by about 4 to 5 seconds. They ended up catching the 60 car.
Yep.
Slowly but surely, about 13 minutes left in the race, I think it was, 14, 13 minutes left. There was contact between the Wayne Taylor Racing Acura and the Winward Racing GTD Mercedes.
Yep.
Over in
That
turn
car
3.
was a very significant car in the last 15 minutes of this
Oh, yeah,
race.
yeah.
They should Meyer Shank Racing should go buy the Winward Racing team a lot of beer tonight, a lot of Busch Light, because not only did they and quite honestly that was a race deal with Albuquerque. It's disappointing from their perspective because he was charging, and I believe that probably Wayne Taylor had the better car. I think that in clean air, it was much more Meyer Shank's race. But of course, this is Petit Le Mans. This is a 2.5 mile track, and there were still 36 cars on the racetrack at that time. So you're not going to have clean air for very long. And I think on the whole, coming down to the end of the race, Wayne Taylor had the right car, had the right situation, had the right traffic flow. The problem was it's a late send, it's a 50-50 chance there, and the 57 turned in on him. No fault of his own. The GT car just can't disappear, as we hear so many times on Radio Le Mans. And they made contact, and ultimately that broke the 10 car. That took him out of the race and essentially decided it.
Right, and from that point on, we thought the 31 might have a bit of a challenge there at the end with the 60. I mean, they were closing in.
It was the same
The
situation.
traffic factor was still there.
You had that 5-second gap, and then all of a sudden, it was slowly whittling down. And then you saw the big group of traffic, and you're like, here it is. And then the Winward Racing car crashed, and that ended the race.
Yeah. So, bit of an anticlimactic end there. Very interesting, sort of a mirrored situation, because the debut race for the DPI cars, 2017 Daytona 24, was the opposite, let's just say, at the very end, with some contact between two front-running cars.
Now that happened in this race.
Speaking of contact between two front-running cars, you saw what I was doing there.
Yeah, that was a segue.
Yeah, we'll call it that. Famous with those on the Rain Race podcast. I think while we're recording this right now, there's a little bit of a chit-chat going down somewhere to my right.
Oh, where's Ganassi? No, the Ganassi's down there.
Somewhere in my vicinity. There's a bit of a chat going on between.
They've had a few
Ganassi.
chats this year on the IndyCar side and the sports car side. Lots of chats.
Yeah. Anyway, what happened is you have Earl Bramber on the inside of Renger van der Zande going into turn one. Of course, these two teammates and Earl Bramber. I didn't get a very clear look of it. I still have yet to see it when it wasn't on a screen in the media center. Looked like he might have ran a little bit wide.
Yep.
Hit Renger.
Yep.
Both of them are in the gravel in turn one.
Yep. The O2 racked up penalties like they were Pokemon cards there at the end of the race. I mean, they penalized, and that will probably tell you what the officials thought of who was at fault in that accident, because they just, the 01 car essentially only had the penalty for working under the yellow, which is a standard penalty in IMSA. And the O2 car was just had the book thrown at them. No matter whatever they could penalize them for, they did. So, yeah, it was disappointing. And frankly, I think I said incomprehensible. That's not something, believe it or not, that's not something you expect from Chip Ganassi Racing. I know this year has been a little bit odd and different with the dysfunction at that team, but you don't expect teammates to crash each other out of the race in that spectacular fashion. In fact, I'm thinking about it. I mean, there was an IndyCar race this year where Palou and Ericsson kind of touched, but nothing like this that I can remember. So that's unique and that's unexpected from that team.
Right. It certainly shifted up the way the race played out at the very end. I mean, that contact is basically what set the precedent for the finish of the race between the battle between the 60 and the 10.
Yep.
So.
But because you had no pressure too, that was the other thing, is that the 31 was kind of hanging in there, and had it come to blows between the 60 and the 10, the 31 could have been a factor, but the 02 was a legitimate threat to the 10 and the 60. And once that car was out of the race, it was Acura v Acura.
Right.
And that was how it was going to end. So we got Jimmy podium out of it though. That's the real conclusion to the Ganassi crash is a Jimmy podium at Petit Le Mans. Who would have ever thought we'd be saying that about 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, and the 48 car, make no mistake, they didn't have a perfect race either. They actually got caught out by a real unfortunate penalty right as they were about to cycle back up. They had a really
Jimmy spun the wheels on the jacks.
Yeah.
You can't do that. That's a no-no.
Yeah, they had a really lucky break where it looked like that car was going to cycle up to third in class. And, give it some time, throw Kamui in the car for a bit, throw Rocky in the car. They certainly could have been a contender in this race.
And if they were on the lead lap at the end of that thing, I mean, anybody who was on the lead lap in a race like this, you've got a chance. And who knows? Because we know that was one thing that I noticed throughout the race was Kamui. There's the overall winner. That was one thing I noticed about Kamui, especially he was just a complete maniac in traffic. And that was exactly what won the race for the 60 car was traffic. So I think they would have had a chance if they would have been on the lead lap and been in contention, but we'll never know.
Another interesting collision we saw earlier on in the race was between the 5 car, the JDC Miller Motorsports car, and the number 12 GTD, not GTD Pro, Lexus going through the S's.
That was a big one.
That was a big one, and they were actually JDC, whether it was just by pit cycles or just raw pace, they were up in the front of the race for a while as well. You mentioned this in your video. I think the Cadillacs throughout the day, it really seemed like from the start, especially Ganassi, but the Cadillacs in general had the pace advantage over the Acuras. When we shift to night, I don't know if it's a turbo thing or what really constitutes it.
That's always how it's been. Is throughout the DPI era, it's from based on my observation. All the other DPI cars in history outside the Cadillac were turbocharged. The times that the turbocharged cars generally won, I know the Acuras were pretty potent in the day, but Mazda won here. Nissan won here. Nissan and Mazda won at Sebring. What's the common factor in those races? They cool down at night. And so It could just be a coincidence, but that's something I've noticed, and it played out the exact same way today.
Right. I think that's all I want to leave for prototype. We've had a lot of time talking about the prototype class. Or
Just DPI.
Just DPI.
Just DPI.
A couple more prototype classes. We're going to sort of breeze through them a little bit, though. I do want to spend some time talking about LMP2. I think one of the notable things about that is Ben Keating, PR1 Mathiasen, they crashed about halfway through the race. That was a day done for them, and also a championship done. They were really in a position to win the championship if they were able to finish the race
tough scene.
Relatively well. So a really tough break for them. It's another champion. We were just talking about that with DPI, sort of stolen in the last race. LMP2
well, thrown away.
Well. Yeah. Mistakes I think on both ends where they might be kicking themselves a bit into the night, but
Woo!
Getting interrupted a bit here by the Tower Motorsports number 8 car.
We were just talking about LMP2.
They won the race and they won the championship because of their win today.
Wow, exciting.
Very
LMP2, exciting.
Yeah. You
Great
want
class.
to give me more LMP3?
Love LMP2.
LMP3.
I love LMP3 more.
LMP3, not a whole lot to talk about. I'm
Andretti
sure there was,
won.
Andretti did
We're standing in
win.
their
And we're
pit
standing
right
right in front of Andretti right now. The 36 car was able to win the race, and Core Autosport won the championship.
The 13 car was a menace.
The 54 car.
That car got penalized. It crashed. It stalled. That 13 car, man.
That was your notable take
13
there.
Dookie.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
we did breeze through those couple prototype classes. Do want to talk a little bit about the GTD classes now. And this is still confusing me. We're at the last race of the season, and I'm still saying GTD and GTD Pro.
GTE,
Whatever. Yeah.
AM,
Part of me wants to
Pro.
keep calling it GTLM. Anyway, we're going to start off actually with GTD, almost a GTE again, GTD quote-unquote AM, because they managed to win the GT classes overall. Right.
And the car that started last overall, prototypes and GT, won in GT overall.
Yep.
Does that make sense?
Gradient Racing Acura. No, it was really interesting. And to be honest with you, I still don't really know what happened.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like what happened, and I'm looking for somebody to correct me if I'm wrong, because I frankly, how long has this been going on? 8 hours since that happened,
Yeah.
and we're still trying to figure out what happened. I think what happened is the GTD leader was ahead of the GTD Pro leader at the time,
Yes.
but they were also ahead of the overall leader
Yes.
when the safety car came out.
Yes.
So the entire GTD class got waved around the safety car,
But not GTD Pro.
not GTD Pro.
And that's a flaw in the rules, and they're going to have to address that, because they've done everything to say, and they've said throughout the year, they said it at Daytona several times, is that we are treating this as one class that's a split. Well, this was the first situation where they didn't treat it as a split class.
Right.
And, I would suspect, I haven't talked to anybody, but, I would suspect that if you're a GTD Pro team, you expect that, even if you don't win it overall, you're expecting to be on the same lap as the GTD winner. You're not expecting to be a lap and a half behind. And that's what happened today. And again, I think they'll fix that. I mean, because the last thing you want to do is piss the factory teams off.
Right,
and because we've seen sports car racing is a cacophony of pissing the factory teams off, and they all bail. So, but I think it's an easy fix. This isn't something where you're going, oh, how are they going to fix it? You just wave all the GT cars by.
Right. The easy fix is to truly treat it all as one class.
Yeah.
Even though they are split, they should be split on ranking alone, like you said.
Yeah.
Wave them all around,
like
or don't wave them
SRO
around at all.
does it.
Finally, do want to talk about GTD Pro. I think the most notable thing in that class came at the very end, or after the very end, for that matter.
Yeah, the car that crossed the line first didn't actually win the race.
Right. I mean, we were all sitting in the media center. We were sitting luckily right next to the officials, and we were able to hear them say,
It was 62 car to the end of the line,
end
class.
of the field.
And so I've got a question, because they violated the drive time by 11 minutes. And the thing that I've thought of a couple of times is, did they know? Did he know? Just put that meme up. Did he know, the Riddler?
Does he know?
Does he know? Yeah, because, it looked like because they won, going away. I mean, no one was touching them. I wonder if they just kind of said, screw it, we're just going for it. And we're going to cross the line first, and we know we won, because they're not racing for points. And they're racing, we were even told that Giuseppe races for wins. He doesn't race for second, or he doesn't race for points. He doesn't race for BOP, none of that. So, but you don't get to bring the trophy home if the drive time isn't lining up with IMSA's rules and regulations. And I don't know how they screwed that up. Because it's a professional, it's a factory Ferrari team. They might bring a GT or a GTP car here with Ferrari.
Allegedly.
Well, that's what Giuseppe told Andrew Marriott. I would tend to believe both of those people.
Yeah.
But this is a team. How do you screw that up as a team?
The thing is, it's not unprecedented. I mean, it was a while back now, but Wayne Taylor Racing at the Rolex 24, I want to say it was 2015, maybe 2016, somewhere around that general area. That. I think it was Jordan Taylor who was over the drive time with that car.
Yep.
Daniel Serra was the driver in question today for the, just to get that out there. I don't know. To me, if they knew about it, I don't know why they wouldn't have rectified it earlier. If it came down to a thing at the very end of the race where they realized and they're like, well, we're going to lose this race anyways, we might as well just cross the line first, maybe get some style points. I don't know. Like you said, they're not in the full season. They're not racing for the championship. At the end of the day, they sort of have that liberty to make that decision. That's what
the land car used to do all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Remember when the land car was here? And I love the land car.
Of course, Audi doesn't really have any more GT drivers. But
well, that's true.
Story for another day.
I mean, they got DQ'd every race. They were winning, and they would get DQ'd. So maybe that's just Reese's the new land car. It's gonna whatever. Who cares?
Yeah.
It's gonna go fast. Have fun.
Anyway, champions in the GT class. We had the number 9 Pfaff Motorsports Porsche.
Yep.
Very respectable championship for them. First season
Dominant.
in a pro class, winning over Corvette Racing.
And dominant.
Can't talk about GT without talking about Corvette Racing. And the fact that Pfaff beat them first year in the class, I think was a really impressive feat for them.
Well, we know. I mean, because I documented it as Corvette struggles early on in this season. Now they got it together by Sebring, but Daytona was a disaster for Corvette.
Right.
Because I do believe that wasn't totally sandbagging. Maybe there was some of it, but they were out to lunch a little bit. They started getting it together, but I think the Pfaff team is really starting to come into its own, and I think they're going to be strong for years and years to come. And I think they're going to continue to grow because. You think about maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, if they keep winning in GT, at what point does Porsche say, hey, we've got a LMH car, would you like to run it?
Pfaff Motorsports, they've gone on the record of saying we're interested in racing an LMDH. You got to imagine them winning the championship in Gtd Pro.
Their stock's going up.
Yeah, they just went up 200 points today. So, I think we're going to have to see, if they want to go down that path in the future. Right now, they're the GT team to beat in IMSA, though.
Yeah, might as well be the factory Porsche, really,
right?
If you think about it.
Yeah. Finally, GTD, not Pro.
AM.
Yeah.
See, I just say Pro and AM. It's just easier, and I know the marketing people don't like it, whatever. AM.
27, Heart of Racing, Aston Martin. They won the championship in that class.
Hooray.
Yeah. I don't have a whole lot to say. Congratulations to their team as well. I mean, Heart of Racing, they're one of the newer teams in IMSA. I think they've been able to put on a really strong, consistent program this season. Yeah. Certainly a championship that's worth carrying for them.
And they came in with both feet. They didn't just run GTD, they ran GTD Pro. They put a really solid effort together. That car was on the outside of the front row today, though it didn't quite live up to expectations, I don't think. I mean, the Aston has been there all season long, and they were rewarded with a championship.
Yep. And that's all I have to talk about today. I'm going to give Kyle a bit of a break. He's been holding that camera between your video and mine for 40 minutes or something. Unfortunately, that's where the road ends for me as well. I will not be attending the GTP test. I got to go back and do boring college stuff. It's really unfortunate. What's not unfortunate for you is that you will be here, Kyle will be here. You'll have some great content on your channel. I'm sure Kyle might throw a couple videos up as well.
I think he will.
I'll leave their channels linked at a card in the top right over there. And you can go check out their channels. Anyway, that's been Petit Le Mans. Thank you so much to everybody who tuned into this video. Hope to catch you in the next one. I will be putting out a couple more videos this week. Don't worry, it's not going to be another 4-month break. Looks like you have some closing thoughts.
Subscribe to Chris.
Okay, you were pointing. I thought you.
I was just going to do the Renus VK thing, but
okay.
Now you screwed it up, and I can't do it. Sorry, Renus.
Anyway, that's a wrap for this one. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.